Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and this short video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous night of the local time. We have a lot of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about Zaporizhzhia area. The Russians published the video of how they managed to destroy the bridge that connected the western and the eastern part of the town by the name of Huliaipole. First, the video was published by some Ukrainian locals, maybe that was the Ukrainian civilians who were living in the area. The Ukrainian, man arrived in the area to the bridge. He was trying to cross the bridge, as you can see, but then he saw the consequences of Russian attack. The bridge was completely destroyed. He was very upset, very angry, telling a lot of different things about the Russians and the Ukrainians. And as you can see on the date, the video was made on the 31st of March of 2024. And later we got some but some drone picture, and right before I start making the video, we got the full video of Russian attack in the area. So on this video we can see the completely normal bridge between one side and another, Huliaipole. Then we can see the Russian strike. Very difficult to understand what kind of weapon the Russians were using. Maybe that was a FAB, maybe that was a missile. Anyway, as a result of strike, the bridge was completely destroyed. And this is very important because there is like big river, right? And I'll remind you that during the March, just in the previous video, we were talking a lot about the situation on this direction, telling that something new is happening for this area in comparison with 2022 and 2023. We were talking about significant Russian focus and activity in Malinovka. The Russians destroyed almost every single building with Amur missiles. We discussed a lot of Russian attempts of attack in between Chervone and Malinovka with the purpose to improve their positions, maybe to capture additional tree lines and additional footholds and so on. And we discussed a lot of details about the Russian strikes in Huliaipole itself, and what was the purpose and what is the main goal of Russian attack of destroying the bridge. The thing is that the main Ukrainian forces in the area are located in the vicinity of Orekhov, because this is, the area with high risk of Russian counterattack. There are very heavy clashes in Robotin, so that's why the main of reserves Ukrainians are trying to keep as close as possible to Zaporizhzhia, as close as possible to the railways. So that's why if anything happens in Huliaipole, the Ukrainians use this road for supplying and for regrouping and sending reinforcements to the area of Huliaipole. So the soldiers, the Ukrainians, are sending their troopers from Orekhov along this road, and by this road the Ukrainians managed to stabilize the situation in the area many times in the past. And now we see that the Russians managed to destroy the bridge, and basically this supply road is no longer available for the Ukrainians. And for now, it's the best time for the Russians, for best opportunity for the Russians to launch an offensive operation with the purpose to establish control over Malinovka and to establish control over the village by the name of Chervone and Zelený Gai. Obviously, the Ukrainians during the next few weeks will be able to find a solution how to rebuild their logistics, how to resolve the issues with the supply and support and sending forces to this area. So that's why right now the Russians have good chances to develop some offensive and to develop some success on this direction. To finish with Zaporizhzhia, I would like to discuss with you another progress of the armed forces of Russian Federation to the northwest of Verbovo. According to different mappers, the Russians managed to establish control over this territory as well. So the Russians are getting closer and closer to the main defense belt, the main defense stronghold of the armed forces of Ukraine on this direction. And we are talking about these abandoned farms, old farms in the fields. And if the Russians are able to capture this territory, then there are going to be no more fortifications that Ukrainians can use for long-term defense, and basically they will be forced to fall back. So this is the situation in Zaporizhzhia. As we can see, lots of very interesting updates are coming within the next few weeks and this week as well. We haven't received anything from Novomikhailivka, just several number of Ukrainian FPV drone strikes against the offensive Russian forces that took place a few days ago, and different mappers confirm additional Russian progress to the southwest of the village, confirming that the Russians entered the trenches and that the Russians currently are trying to dig in deeper in the area and to repel every single Ukraine attack that took place yesterday, before yesterday, and obviously will take place during the next few days. Now we are moving to the north in direction of Pervomaiske. We have a final confirmation of Russian control and Russian additional progress along the Naberezhnaya Street. Some sources are saying that this is Vadiane, village. Some sources are saying that this is northwestern part of Pervomaiske. Anyway, regarding the real title of the area, we see that the map has been updated by us. And on this video, we can see the Russian soldiers on the western edge of this populated area, establishing and raising the flag above the building, confirming Russian complete control over the territory. If you remember, during the previous few days, we were talking about significant Russian progress that Ukrainians were forced to fall back. That exactly on this direction there was the biggest Russian tank attack since the end of the Second World War. Probably the Russians were using up to 50 armored vehicles, including 36 tanks, and the rest were the personnel carriers. And as a result of that attack, we see that the Russians captured significant territories in direction of Yasnobrodovka, Manska, and Nitailova. So for now, we still haven't received any geolocations confirming the Russian progress in the central part of Pervomaiske, along the Pershatravneva Street, along Miru Street, and so on. But it's very likely the Ukrainians abandoned their positions on this direction as well. So today we expect additional updates from the armed forces of Russian Federation. Now we are moving further to the north in direction of Bakhmut-Artyomovsk direction, where we also got reports about significant Russian progress in direction of Chasiv Yar, and the sources reported that by the morning of the 1st of April of 2024, the Russians managed to establish complete control over this territory and to capture, let's say, the last biggest stronghold in front of Chasiv Yar itself. And the sources are saying that currently the distance between the edge positions of the armed forces of Russian Federation and Chasiv Yar itself is around 650 meters. So the distance is very short, and the Russians are pushing. Currently, it's very difficult to understand what the Russians are planning to do next, but obviously, and at least the Russians are planning to capture and to take under control this quarter of Chasiv Yar. This one, I'll remind you that according to the Ukrainians, there are just around 900 civilians left in the town, and significant number of Ukrainian forces inside of this city and this agglomeration. Furthermore, during the previous night, the Russians published the video how they managed to discover another ammo depot in the central part of Chasiv Yar, and as a result of probably Krasnopol strike of something accurate, the ammo depot was destroyed. There was a secondary detonations and very big explosions. Now we are moving further to the north in direction of Siversk, Solidar area. Today we got a lot of very interesting details and updates. To be more precise, the 106th Russian Division published official statement about the situation in the area. As I understand, 106th Division is responsible for, let's say, offensive operation on this direction, and the Russians are saying that during the previous few days they managed to improve their positions, that they launched officially, let's say, announced the beginning of Siversk offensive operation. There are currently 3 points of pressure from the Russian side, 2 points of pressure in the vicinity of Razdolovka. During the previous days, as we discussed, the Russians managed to improve their positions on the southeastern part of the village. They tried to bypass the territory, and currently the Russians are saying that there are very heavy clashes, fierce clashes from both sides in the area of the railway station by the name of Vyimka. So this is the railway station. This is it, Vyimka, the railway station. This is the buildings of the railway station. This is a very powerful Ukrainian stronghold in the area that Ukrainians tried to hold as long as possible, not to allow the Russians to capture the territory. And the Russians launched significant storm with significant number of armored vehicles and infantry. And if the Russians are able to capture the territory, the entire foothold will automatically collapse, because the main Ukrainian strongholds and the main Ukrainian fortifications are located here, at least to the north of Razdolovka and to the north of Vyimka. Even if the Russians are able to bypass this territory, then the Ukrainians will receive the risks of being attacked from the north, and of course sooner or later it will force the Ukrainians to fall back from the area towards Kuzminovka, and Zvanovka. So let's say the main part of clashes has begun, and if the Russians will try to capture this territory during the week, or at least to force the Ukrainians to fall back, and then everything will be completely changed in the direction, and we're going to see completely different battle, and the battle for the southern Siversk outskirts. We haven't received anything about Belogorovka. Very likely there are very heavy clashes, but as you can see, for now, no updates, no videos. The southern Kupiansk directions, we haven't received anything. The northern Kupiansk direction, we haven't received anything as well. More details we got from Kharkiv. Today the Russian sources published the video of how they managed to discover the Ukrainian S-300 air defense system to the south of Kharkiv. The Russians were following the area, they were tracking the Ukrainian movements, and then when the time came, they made, let's say, missile strike. Very likely the Russians were using Tornado S or Iskander missile. As you can see, as a result of secondary detonation, the Ukrainian S-300 system was destroyed, and as you can see, S-300 system was completely fully loaded with with missiles waiting for some job, but it was destroyed. We see secondary detonation, lots of fire. Few important things here I would like to point your attention is the distance between the area of explosion and the Russian border. So the distance is around 70 kilometers. First thing. The second thing, the Russian missile or whatever it was bypassed Kharkiv without any resistance, and we see very big problem of armored forces of Ukraine in air defense. Basically, the air defense was destroyed by missile that air defense was prepared to fight with. So very complicated situation in Ukraine. I can't tell you for sure how this situation is going to be finished, but obviously without Patriots, the Ukrainians have no chances to even stabilize the front line. I'm not talking about winning or some returning of the positions and lost territories. Lots of very interesting updates are coming from Moscow itself. The Russians officially stated that SBU is a terrorist organization, and the Russians officially required and demanded Ukraine to arrest the head of SBU, Maluk, and they blamed him in a terrorist attack of 2022, 2023, and 2024 all over the entire territory of Russia. And the Russians reported that if Ukrainians are not going to arrest the head of SBU because he was recognized as a terrorist, because he was using a terrorist methods of war, then Russia will make everything it possible to force Ukrainians to follow the laws and international regulation using the United Nations mechanism. Anyway, this is the first step of recognizing of Ukraine as a terrorist state. So we'll see, of course, what is going to be next. But obviously, that was not a very good and pleasant bell for the Ukrainians. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds you, we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.